Are Reid Detmers and Jose Soriano the best pitchers available in this upcoming trade market? We'll give you our answers today.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John. And today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase.
On today's show, Jose Soriano got to show off his skills for the upcoming trade market against the Cardinals. We'll recap that game in segment 3. Jon Mozeliak spoke about the team and the trade deadline, and it was worlds apart from what we are used to hearing Perry Manassian say. But first, Mike, with Detmers and Soriano possibly available, what other arms are available and might impact the trade market for our two starting pitchers? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, The Athletic released its second trade deadline big board for potential trade candidates on Monday. And so we took a look at their rankings for starting pitchers who were potentially available. And we also wanted to see where guys like Detmers and Soriano ranked on their list. So let's take a look at the starting pitching ranks and the likelihood a deal gets made in the opinion of the Athletics. Why don't you get us started, Johnny?
Yeah, so we got a whole list of 24 players. Won't read it all, but it's 24 potential starters who could be traded. And it starts at the top, Mike, with Tarik Skubal, then Joe Ryan. Of course, he did give up 6 home runs last night. I don't know if you saw that, but that was Sonny Gray of the Red Sox. And then right after that, Reid Detmers is number 4, and Jose Soriano rounds out the top 5. Now, the Athletic says that Skubal and Gray are somewhat likely to be traded, while Joe Ryan is not likely to be traded, which puts Detmers and Soriano very much in the running for a deal to get done. Obviously, we know as Angel fans, the whole Artie Moreno factor of it all. We'll talk about what Mozeliak had to say about the trade deadline in the next segment. But here's why those moves regarding Skubal and Sonny Gray are not likely, and Joe Ryan as well. The Red Sox, coming into play on Monday, held the third wildcard spot. They actually have won 14 in a row now, Mike, as of last night. The Twins, they did lose, but so I imagine they're 3 games back. I have 2 games back, but now they're probably 3 games back. While the Tigers, coming into play on Monday, 4.5 back, 24-15 since the beginning of June. So there's very much reasons for those guys to hold on to guys like Skubal and Joe Ryan and Sonny Gray right now.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why it seems like maybe perhaps Soriano and Detmers are potentially more likely to be traded by the Angels. And again, you're right. There's a lot of factors that play into that. Now, behind Soriano and Detmers, the 6th ranked pitcher is Kevin Gausman of the Blue Jays. The Athletic rates him not likely for a deal because teams don't want to pay ace prices for an ace from a couple of years ago, in their words. And then 7th ranked is Clay Holmes of the Mets. He follows Gausman, but he has to get healthy. He hasn't been healthy, and he is shooting for a return in August. And then Casey Mize, who we did see in when we were playing Detroit, and he is the 8th ranked pitcher, but he is for the same reason the Tigers might want to keep Skubal. Mize is somewhat likely to probably stay there, maybe not go anywhere. However, they could deal him if they feel like they fall out of the race, but he is somebody that's still a big question mark for the Tigers and a big question mark for the trade deadline.
So the biggest question is who's the real competition for Soriano and Detmers? If Detmers and Soriano are going to be available on the trade market, what other player might preclude other teams from being interested in them? I think one of the most likely ones, Mike, is the 9th ranked pitcher, Freddie Peralta. Now, the Athletic does say he's not very likely to be dealt because he's a rental. He's not having a good season. It's not that the Mets wouldn't want to deal him. It's that maybe there aren't any suitors out there. And so at the end of the day, the rumor is the Brewers might want him back, which would be kind of funny. I know Ryan over at Locked On Mets did a whole episode on that. So the Athletic does say, I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. The Athletic does say he is very likely to be dealt, But again, that comes down to which teams are going to want to pursue him. Then the next most likely to be dealt, Robbie Ray of the Giants, who's actually 17th on this list of starting pitchers. He's a lefty who's a rental. He's actually having a decent season on a really bad Giants team. The record is not great. He's got a 3.33 ERA, but Mike, he's got a 4.59 fielding independent pitching, meaning he's definitely benefiting from some decent defense behind him and helping him out there. The Royals, who are way out of it, they're just as out of it as the Angels are. They could deal Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, and Chris Bubich, but the Athletic says only Bubich would be likely to be dealt. The Royals actually have a chance to hang on to Wacha and Seth Lugo through 2028 because of how their contracts are structured. So it's very likely they just hang on to them and hope for better results as a team overall next year in Kansas City.
So when you zoom out, Soriano and Detmers offer 2 years of control. They're both owed $80K, $80K, that'd be nice, right? $800,000 for the rest of the year. They're more enticing arms like Skubal and Sonny Gray. They're likely to stay with their teams, but that's for now. If either team falls apart, collapses, they could switch into sell mode, and they probably are more likely to do that than maybe the Angels are. Teams that are out of it, like the Royals, seem to want to hold on to their arms. And of course, Freddie Peralta seems like the only competition for Detmers and Soriano. So for right now, both guys are looking really good, and they're performing better than Freddie Peralta, and their peripherals are better as well. Foster Griffin is having a big year, but he's one of the only Nationals pitchers performing well, and they need more pitching to compete, not less pitching. Yeah. So, John, all of this information, collecting it, processing it, are Detmers and Soriano the best pitchers available when you rule out all of the teams not likely to move their arms?
Yeah, if you see that Joe Ryan's off the board, Skubal's off the board, Sonny Gray's off the board, then Detmers and Soriano immediately move in to the top of that list. The only hangup, Mike, is that because they're only owed $800K through the rest of the year, they have 2 more years of control. That works in favor of the Angels in the sense that they would get a nice return, but it also kind of works against them in the sense that it's going to take a nice return. And so you just have to wonder which teams are going to be willing to deal from their farm system and turn over some of that depth that they have and provide the Angels with some really good players that they could use in a couple of years. So there's a fine line. There's a balance there of, one, teams that are in it on July 21st, but might not be in it on July 31st. There's a lot of baseball left right now between now and the trade deadline on August 3rd. So anything could really happen. The Tigers could totally fall out of it. The Red Sox won 14 in a row. Well, they could lose 14 in a row, right? So that's just, we're going to have to cross our fingers and hope that those guys stay off the market. At the same time, yes, to answer your question, Detmers and Soriano, I think, are the best pitchers available. But what happens next is they have to go out there and kind of measure what teams are willing to give up and what teams are really going to be in the thick of it come the trade deadline and trying to get over that hump. Now, I look at the list of 24. You and I have that in front of us. I'm looking for any other names that maybe we didn't mention. I know we talked about a lot of the guys toward the top, but the truth is, Mike, honestly, I would say Luis Castillo might be an arm that gets dealt from the Mariners because you know how they almost have too many starters. They were doing that piggyback thing for a while. That could be some competition. Again, Robbie Ray is another lefty, so that could be some competition for Detmers in terms of, hey, we only have him through the end of the year. We also don't need to give up as much for him. So again, I mean, the good things about Soriano and Detmers is that they will yield a great return. But you also have to weigh who's willing to give you that great return. I think that becomes the bigger question after we establish that, Soriano, Detmers, they're at the top of the list in terms of potential arms that teams are going to want.
Yeah, and when you look at these teams that have these arms, a lot of these teams are still going to be in it. And even if they do kind of fall apart, Johnny, as you mentioned, they're still in it because each division is not great. Outside of the AL East, the wild card race is close, the AL West is close, the Central is close. And so these teams that are wondering if they're in it or not, I really think that it's going to be a seller's market because there's going to be a lot of teams that want to buy in. And then I see the trade that happened on Monday with the Dodgers and the Rockies. The Dodgers got a kind of a neutral type of bullpen arm who could potentially be really great, kind of like what we did with Carlos Estevez. He could be really great. He's got a strong arm, but they gave 2 guys to the Rockies who in years past had a good narrative behind them, but have kind of fallen off. And they did that for an arm that really isn't a well-known arm. So I think right now it is a seller's market. And so if the Angels decide that they want to trade a Reid Detmers or they want to trade a Jose Soriano, then I think that they're going to get some really good pieces, especially if they offer them up to like the Dodgers or the Yankees or some of these teams that have a great farm system. The only thing that I would caution them on is the Yankees do have some well-known names for minor league players like Jason Dominguez, but those guys, they haven't really turned out the way that you would hope for them to turn out. They haven't been great the way that the Yankees fans wanted them to be great. Like Anthony Volpe was going to be the next Derek Jeter, and he hasn't really been fantastic, right? Yeah. Zach Neto's been better than Anthony Volpe. And so you have to be really cautious. I'm confident in John Mozeliak and the team that he has around him and what they're going to be able to achieve this trade deadline. But Johnny, I think that this could be a really good move for the Angels to collect a lot of really great pieces for 2 arms that I would be sad to see go, but I do think that now's the time to trade them away because of the control and because both of those guys have been better, not great, but better. And I'm excited to see what they could get for those guys and what it would do for this Angels farm system.
Why can't I find this reliever that went to the Dodgers? I'm sitting here scrolling. I want to know who they acquired from. Oh, okay. Seth Halverson. Okay, so it's not anybody that I really knew. I was like, did they deal Senzatella? Like, did that happen? But then I was like, no, I thought Senzatella got into the Rockies game last night. Okay, so I feel better about that. I don't feel like I'm a total bozo out of the loop. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, John Mozeliak spoke a lot yesterday. He spoke to the media. He was on the ESPN broadcast, and it gives us a picture of how he might handle the trade deadline. We'll get into that and much more coming right up.
Locked On Everydayer Brian told us on yesterday's show that he was going to be at the game last night, so we hope that he had a great time. And if you'd like to go to the game, you can get your tickets on Game Time. They are giving the advantage back to you with constant innovation. It's how you can unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Literally 2 taps and you're set when you have an account. So simple to use, and the Game Time guarantee means that you're going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. And here's the best part. The fees are all included in the price that you see. So the price you see is the price that you pay, period. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets for Angel games and tickets for anything else with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use our promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today.
And support for today's show comes from Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits you and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and locations. So less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now as we speak. In the last minute, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. One great addition can have a ripple effect on everyone around them. When you find someone who brings the right skills, the right attitude, and experience, it makes the entire group better. And that's why finding qualified candidates matters so much, and why tools like Indeed Sponsored Jobs can help make that process easier. And listeners of Locked On Angels will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Angels. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country, celebrating 10 years of bringing your team to you every single day. Now, John Mozeliak, interim GM for the Angels, he spoke to the media about the trade deadline, and he had some really interesting thoughts to share. This comes from Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register. Fletch says that Mozeliak is still in the process of figuring out what teams might want to give to the Angels as assets for some of their players. Mozeliak said, understanding the market and where that's going, that's like first and foremost. That's my biggest thing. We can talk about X, Y, and Z, but if we don't understand what the ROI should look like, we're not quite there yet. We also don't know what people are really willing to give up. So over the next 2 weeks, that's 100% our focus. And Mozeliak was asked flatly if the Angels would be willing to make the kind of aggressive trades that might lead to taking a step back in order to take 2 steps forward. And Mozeliak said, possibly, but the real answer is, what are we getting in return, right? We could be presented with lots of deals that we just don't feel are in the best interest of this franchise. And he said, my responsibility is to understand what that looks like. And once we get there, I think that we have to do what's best for the franchise. Johnny, when he was asked about if he had the autonomy to make major deals, I was really impressed and thankful that he gave us the answer that he did. Why don't you share it?
He said, I definitely feel like Mr. Marino is entrusting me to get this right. And so that's certainly what I'm going to try to do. That's a world of difference. And I know we'll talk about that more, but it's a world of difference between, I have no restrictions. Right? Apparently you did, Perry, because you never did the things that you wanted to do.
He just didn't know. He probably just didn't know.
Right, of course. Now, when asked if the Angels could turn around and be contenders in 2027, here's another refreshing statement, Mike. He said, that, I think, is a challenging task. Can I answer that in a week and a half? I'm working through some things to sort of understand how to get there. I don't know. He also said the farm system is stronger than maybe public perception is. He said it's still not a top 10 farm system in baseball. Ultimately, I felt like we had a really good draft. I think we added some exciting depth, but in the end, we've got to keep doing that. One draft doesn't change the franchise. He also kind of reiterated that on the ESPN broadcast last night, saying like, we had a great draft, but everybody feels like they have a great draft, and everybody added players through the draft. And so I think that that's a realistic point of view, Michael. And I think that was what made everything that Mozeliak has said so far, and then including to the media yesterday, talking about the Angels, it felt so much more realistic than anything we got from Perry Manassian over the last 5 years, right?
Yeah, it has. Absolutely. And I think one of the keys to judging your minor league system is when you do have a draft, where do those players rank in your top 30, your top 50, your top 100? And what happened over the last few years with the Angels is that they would draft players and then they would immediately become like top 10, top 5, number 1, right? And a part of that is because they're moving players through the system very quickly. But what I got from Mozeliak was...
Yeah, but those guys were number 1 too. That's the point,
yeah. What I got from Mozeliak was, hey, we're moving thoughtfully and intentionally through this. We're moving through this in a way that will be helpful and beneficial, not just for the team right now, but for the team of the future. And his language has been cautious but clear. And that's what I've appreciated about him. And that's the thing that we've been begging the Angels to be and to do for the last 5.5 years. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us what your thoughts are. Don't try to sell us on this. We want you to tell us because we see it. We want to know if you see it. And if you see it, which I think Mozeliak does, I want you to evaluate it. Tell us exactly what your thoughts are and to be able to respond and say things like, man, competing next year, that's going to be a really tough task, was refreshing because we all go, there's no way. Unless you spend and get all the best players, there's no way that you're competing next year. And to hear that from our general manager was such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, to say, in regard to 2027, I almost feel like, I don't know if Jeff asked this question specifically or somebody in that room asked this question intentionally, but what I feel like is that question was very intentional. If we ask about the Angels being competitive next year, is Mozeliak going to give the, standard Artie Moreno line of, we plan to compete. We plan to compete and be competitive every year. Like, no, he didn't say that. And so props to whether it was Jeff Fletcher or somebody else asking that question in the room. It was a good rage bait question, as they say on the internets, where it's like, they're going to ask this question and find out, like, is Mozeliak going to give, the standard issue answer, or is he going to be real about it? And he was real about it. He said, that's a challenging task. I don't think I've been here long enough to answer that. I don't think that being competitive is, easy to do. It's a challenging task. And that answer was really refreshing.
And this is why in the past, you needed somebody like a Sam Blum in that media room to ask some of these questions, because we weren't getting honest answers. But when you have somebody in that position who's a veteran, who knows what he's doing, he's going to give semi-honest answers. Not saying that he's not being honest with us and being dishonest.
He's not showing his whole hand, right?
Yes.
He's playing poker. Obviously, you got to deal with teams who they want the best return that they can get, whether it's Soriano or Detmers or what have you, and they don't want to have to spend too much to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're in a position of like, oh, we're giving everybody away, we're selling the franchise, we're giving, like, that doesn't do anything for your credit, not credibility, but like your position in the dance that is the trade deadline, right?
And it felt so different, even though we didn't get super detailed answers. It felt like an adult was in the room. And that's really what it felt like when he was on the broadcast. It felt like an adult was on the broadcast.
Yeah.
And somebody that knew what they were doing, somebody that understood what it takes for this franchise to move forward, somebody that wasn't going to try to do a bait and switch, somebody that wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to give my full, cards out here. Perry Manassian was terrible at this game. He felt like a used car salesman. And John Mozeliak, he feels like the CEO of a great business organization and is about ready to trade some stocks and knows exactly what he wants to do, but isn't going to tell you everything that he's going to do.
It's interesting to me that in a number of conversations with John Mozeliak, including last night on the broadcast, how often he brings up Molly Jolly, team president. Yeah. I know we all giggle and snicker when we hear that name, but he's brought her up several times. And Mike, I have to believe, going back to when this all started, that she was the one who got this ball rolling and made it very clear to Artie that, like, hey, we have to make a change. I don't know what Carpino's been doing all these last couple of years, but now that he's gone, everything that we kind of hoped would happen, not everything, obviously, everything we hope would happen would be Artie sells the team.
Sure.
But
this is the beginning of good things, I guess, is what you're saying.
Sure. And with Carpino gone, this was one of the things that we thought maybe things could change now that he's out of the way. And again, I think people forget this, that Molly was here before Artie Moreno. She was part of the Disney crew who came in, and maybe she wasn't at the tippy top of the company or tippy top of the ownership group from Disney, and she wasn't in charge of everything, but she's been here a long time, and she's seen all the ups and downs. And so it sounds to me, in how John Mozeliak speaks about her, that they're working very close in terms of trying to understand what can be better, what can be fixed, and how they can actually go about fixing it. I think that that's really significant. I think that's worlds apart from what we were getting with John Carpino and Perry Manassian. But at the end of the day, Carpino was Artie's, buddy from college, and he's in this role. And there's a reason he got booed when he threw out the first pitch, and Artie went, "What? How did that happen? I don't understand why people are booing." And so it started with Molly getting the ball rolling, getting rid of Perry Manassian. It honestly feels like she's more involved in the team operations than Carpino was. We always heard team president, but not a president of baseball operations. In a way, it's starting to feel like she's a president of baseball operations. I think that's significant. And certainly the conversations we've been having have been good. I know that it can feel like a lot of empty promises, and some of us are going to feel like if they don't deal Detmers and Soriano, it will feel like an empty promise once again. I caution everybody, including you and me, because I'm sure that we will share our frustrations if that deadline goes by and those guys are not moved. I caution everybody that that is not the measuring stick for true and total success. Just like, I think I brought it up the other day with Kurt Suzuki still being the manager. I'm not going to make John Mozeliak, firing Kurt Suzuki a measuring stick for success. Because at this point, as much as we complain about Suzuki, it is what it is. The Angels are a bad team. They're not going anywhere. The record's bad, and Kurt Suzuki is here to stay. So I think that we just need to consider what our measuring sticks are for success. I feel like moving these guys at the deadline will be a huge measuring stick for success. How many times I'm going to say that? But if it doesn't happen, or maybe only one of them goes, I think that is a win. It's not the win that we would all want, but I think it's a significant win in one sense, that the Angels are finally doing something different than what they have been doing over the last 15 years at the trade deadline.
Everydayers, if you think that you know who's going to hit a home run today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for whoever you think is going to hit a home run in their game. And if you're right, you're going to receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every single day throughout the entire season. Daily Dingers is another way to stay engaged with every game, every day, whether you're following your favorite team like the Angels or you're keeping an eye on other teams and other matchups. Every game has someone capable of going deep, and now you get a chance to make your prediction before the first pitch. So you ready to play Daily Dingers? You can on FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball.
Hey, Mike, we won a game against the Cardinals, and it was a little late inning rally. The Angels win 3-2 on a walk-off hit by pitch, thanks to Joe Adell. Joe Adell had a great night. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's start with Jose Soriano on the mound. I mentioned, hey, do a little demonstration of what you're able to do out there on the mound. And JD from Locked On Cardinals was like, can we have Soriano? I'd love to have him. He got into trouble early. Top of the second, he gave up back-to-back hits. Runners on first and third and one out. Nathan Church came up, entered this game 0 for 30, 0 for his last 30. But he gets the Cards on the board with their first run. He hits an RBI single to right field. Soriano got a ground ball that could have been a double play. Gausman bobbled it, and he just got the out at first. So that scored the second Cardinals run of the inning. But this game was tightly played, 2-1 all the way to the end, and that's because Soriano was great the rest of the way, wasn't he?
Yeah, 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 runs, walked just 1, and struck out 7 on 95 pitches. Johnny, he retired 14 of the last 15 hitters he faced. And Johnny, it was also the first time the Angels starter recorded an out in the 7th inning since June 16th.
Good
So
grief.
It's been that long. It's been over a month, actually.
Yeah.
So it's great to see him perform last night. Now, the Angels offense was not good, at least through 8 innings. They got their first run in the bottom of the third on a Joe Adell home run, his 14th of the year. And it was the first Angel base runner for the night. Johnny, it broke a 0 for 24 for Joe Adell at
Everybody's
that point.
breaking offers last night. There you
go.
go.
Yeah. Got to do something, right? It was their only offensive success through 8 innings. They didn't have a runner on base, a hit with a runner on base through 8 innings. They were 0 for 10, and they never had more than 1 runner on base at a time through 8 innings. Oh, that was until the 9th inning when the Angels finally came back, when they were trailing in the 9th, finally came back to win a game.
Yeah, it was Nolan Shawnuel with 1 out. All of a sudden hitting 280 on the year, right?
Yeah.
Singles up the middle on a high fastball that he just got on top of and hit it through the middle. Jorge Soler was behind him. Mike, he had a good at-bat. I want to give Jorge Soler credit for that. And he ended up getting hit by the sweeper that Riley O'Brien just threw a little out of the hand too early. So then Peraza comes on and pinch runs for Shawnuel. And then after Soler got on, Jose Siri pinch ran for him. Then you get yourself Vaughn Grissom, who doubles to right field to tie the game. It almost looked like a home run, but it did not. It did not go above the wall. It would have walked it off. However, Peraza was able to come around and score on that one. So they have The potential double play. And we're just like, please don't hit into a double play right here. Josh Lowe gets intentionally walked to set up that double play. And with Joe Adell up once again, he was hit by a pitch on 3-0, a very good challenge to overturn a strike call to a ball call to set up that 3-0. And then he was hit by a pitch, and that walked off the game. A hit by pitch, walk off. Man, in a game like this, where it's tightly played all the way through, I'll take that right there, man.
Yeah, it was a shot of adrenaline for the Angels last night. They've won 2 in a row, and so it was great to see them come back. The Cardinals have actually had a really difficult time, so we're sorry, JD, but they've had 2 games now where their hearts have been broken, but we don't care. We're glad that the Angels were able to walk it off last night. Now, one note from the ESPN broadcast, they did comment on the tarps off movement. I don't know if you saw this or not, but they showed the tarps off movement. They showed how many people were over there. And one of the comments from Adam Ottavino was, this is cool and a great way to support the team. And then they also mentioned that it's been happening in Anaheim for a bit. My question to you, Johnny, is do you think that they just don't know what they're actually chanting, or do you think it was an acknowledgement of, yay, fans, thanks for fanning, but not wanting to acknowledge that they are chanting, sell the team, and some derogatory things at Artie Moreno?
Colorful words, right? Here's the thing, Mike. Peacock acknowledged it too when they were at Angel Stadium for that broadcast, and you could tell it made Gooby uncomfortable, but it's more acknowledgement than they've gotten on the broadcast at all from Angels TV, which makes sense, obviously. But no, they don't seem to understand that this is a movement to sell the team. And it's, in one hand, I get it. On the other hand, it's frustrating because when the A's were doing their thing and the Oakland fans were doing their thing, it was very clear that it was a chant to get John Fisher out of there. So I just don't understand why we don't get the same acknowledgement. Maybe we need to be doing the outside the stadium protest in the same way that they did earlier this season that was really successful when there's a national broadcast happening. So maybe we'll have to look ahead to the schedule to see when the Angels are on Peacock again, or maybe ESPN. I know they had several games on Peacock. Peacock is such a stupid name. I get it. It's the NBC logo, but I just keep saying it. I'm like, this is so dumb. But Mike, all in all, a great game, well-pitched game from Jose Soriano. Then you go to Sammy Natera, and then how about Jose Fermin? And, you know, even though we're not fans of Adam Ottavino because what he said to Shohei on his birthday that one year, I should dig up that clip of Seinfeld that I made. How could anybody not like him?
Right.
I should dig that clip up again. Ottavino on the call was just really intentional with how intentional somebody like Jose Fermin was up there, and Sammy Natera, and what they were throwing, and even breaking down like what Riley O'Brien's going to do in order to get some guys out. And it didn't quite work out for him other than Mike Trout. And even though Trout up there in the moment, frustrating that he struck out looking. Yeah. But when Ottavino explained it of, hey, he just threw him a sweeper away, and then he backdoors that sinker that touches the zone, it makes Mike Trout think, oh, here's another pitch away. Oops, that one came in and got the zone. So credit to Ottavino for what he said there. I'm just not going to give him credit for what he said to Shohei all those years ago. But what do I care? He's not even on our team anymore. It just felt personal in that moment. Overall, a great win. Great to see the Angels rally like that. Mike, I know that it didn't result in a lot of success, but I also had to appreciate the fact that, like, Wade Meckler got in there, pinch hit for Logan O'Hoppe, that there was a lefty-righty matchup there, and he, torched the ball over to first base. Just Burleson was able to get to that one. So putting the ball in play and doing it well. How about some of the at-bats, too, that they took against Leahy, the Cardinals starter? I mean, there was was it the fourth inning? It was like 30 pitches, or maybe it was even the third inning.
It was actually the second inning when they scored their runs. It was a 30 pitch inning, but the Angels were only able to score that one run, and so they weren't able to capitalize on it. But they did have good at bats. And John, that goes back to what we've talked about all year long, that when the Angels actually are patient at the plate and are looking to walk and looking to make contact, they will find success. It may not happen right away, but they will find success. And I think that actually motivates their pitchers. It motivates Jose Soriano and Sammy Natera and Jose Fermin, in that they are wanting to make sure that they are sharp and crisp. And that's what the team felt like last night. My hope is that this isn't just one of those once in a week or once in every 2-week moments for the team. They were sharp and crisp and intentional last night, even though offensively they weren't great until the 9th inning and put it all together. But that's why you play 9 innings. And that's why if you have a pitching staff that keeps you in the game, gosh, it changes the game for you and you have a chance to win.
Yeah, and between the good at-bats that they took and then putting the ball in play and hitting it hard the way that they were doing it, it just felt like a matter of time before something broke through. And even though it was, a bases loaded hit by pitch that walked it off, I mean, that's the effect that you have where Riley O'Brien feels like he can't throw one over the plate because Joe Adell's going to hit it hard and crush it or do something to finish this game. And so that's certainly a big moment there. Final question. Why didn't Siri score on that double? Are
he
you
went
confused
back.
About that too?
He went back. I think Jordan Walker deked him a bit in that he was going to catch that ball in right field. And so he went back and he was going to tag. The fact that he made it to third base, even though he went back to tag, was great. But he probably should have at least been halfway, midway. The runner at second base is the most important run, and that runner ended up scoring, but he should have been halfway at that point, because I think in that case, you're able to take off and probably score with that ball bouncing off the wall like it did. I think he was just trying to be extra
cautious.
cautious, and luckily Vaughn Grissom and then Joe Adell made it work for the Angels last night.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the kind of game I love as a fantasy baseball player, where Jordan Walker is on my team. He gets a run, a hit, a double, a stolen base, and a walk. Great for my fantasy team. And my favorite baseball team still won the game. So there you go.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. And you can find Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It really helps out our channel. It helps us get in front of other Angel fans, other sickos who might not know about Locked On Angels. And then get in the comments section, because we'd love to hear your thoughts on all of today's discussion, including the trade deadline, Mozeliak, all of that. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Well, Walbert Urania is on the mound, and the Angels are looking to win 3 in a row. So we're going to talk about what Walbert did and if the Angels can actually start a winning streak. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
It almost feels like you're going to say, like, what Walbert did.
Walbert.
There's a lot of W's there. Exactly. All right, friends. We hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, all you sickos who love this Angels team, all the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
Let's go, Walbert.
Walbert. I got to tell you the Juan Rivera story next time.